2017 meeting of the Oshkosh Common Council. Would the city clerk please take the roll?
Paul Mary,
Here.
Allison Osby,
Here.
Herman,
Here.
Pansky,
Here.
Krause,
Here.
Peck, Cummings,
Here.
present 6.
Would you all please stand while Councilmember Palmieri leads us in invocation, and then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance led by our students.
We come together this evening to discuss the issues that confront our city. May we always seek the wisdom to do things that reflect our concern for the people whom we represent.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, for our students, I have a certificate of appreciation, and I also have a few questions for you. So we'll start with you, your name, where you go to school, and with Christmas only a week or so away, what are you most excited about?
I go to Jefferson School, and I'm most excited about decorating the tree and how fun it is.
Okay, thank you.
Addie, Jefferson School.
And your name?
My name is Aiden Drover. I'm in second grade, and I come from Jefferson School. And I like putting presents for the rest of our family under the tree.
Okay, well, thank you, kids. I have a certificate for each of you for participating tonight. You can stay here and watch the council meeting, or probably go home and do homework or have fun. The choice is yours, Mom and Dad. Can we give our students a hand? Next on the agenda is a presentation by Chief of Police Dean Smith. So,
Good evening. I'd like to come in with some very good news today. I want to talk to you a little bit about CALEA and our reaccreditation process that we just recently went through. The Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies was created in 1979. It's a credentialing authority through the joint efforts of law enforcement's major executive associations: the International Association of Chiefs of Police, National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, National Sheriff's Association, and the Police Executive Research Forum. The purpose of CALEA is to improve the delivery of public safety services primarily by maintaining a body of standards developed by public safety practitioners covering a wide range of up-to-date public safety initiatives, establishing and administering the accreditation process, and recognizing professional excellence. Specifically, CALEA's goals are to strengthen crime prevention and control capabilities, formalizing essential management procedures, establishing fair and non-discriminatory personnel practices, improving our service delivery, and increasing community and staff confidence in our agency. This accreditation process provides public safety agencies an opportunity to voluntarily demonstrate that they meet an established set of international professional standards, which require us to deliver a comprehensive, well-thought-out, uniform set of written directives. We provide the necessary reports and analysis, which I use to make fact-based, informed management decisions. It also assists the police department's relationship with the community. It strengthens the police department's accountability both within the department and the community through a continuum of standards that clearly define authority, performance, and responsibilities. It also helps limit our liability and risk exposure because it demonstrates that internationally recognized standards for law enforcement have been met as verified by a team of independent, outside national CALEA-trained assessors. So in August of 2017, OPD went through our on-site evaluation, and a couple of you responded, a couple of you came and actually spoke. We had national independent assessors come, and they spent 3 days here. They reviewed everything that we do within the police department. They reviewed our CALEA proofs, They interviewed citizens, they talked at phone call-in sessions, they interviewed public officials, they interviewed officers, they interviewed myself, they interviewed Mr. Roloff to determine if we're actually gonna be able to meet our accreditation once again. CALIA agencies must be in compliance with at least 80% of applicable other than mandatory standards. We're able to opt out of 20% of those non-mandatory standards. We were in compliance with 92% of non-mandatory standards. We were at 100% compliance with the 298 mandatory standards. We had 0 standard issues. We had 0 waivers. We opted out of only 6 standards. There were 111 standards that weren't applicable to our police operation. There's a total of 484 standards that we had to meet. And this is not just meeting them once a year or once every 3 years. We must meet these standards every single year. We report out on what we do every single year. The standards address 6 major law enforcement areas: role, responsibilities, and relationships with other agencies, organization, management, and administration of the department, personnel administration, law enforcement operations, operational support, and traffic law enforcement, detainee and court-related services, as well as auxiliary and technical services. In November of this year, I traveled to Jacksonville, Florida. I stood before the full panel of commissioners. We were unanimously awarded our 8th accreditation award. This was the Advanced Meritorious Accreditation Award. Once again, for the 8th time, we've been CALIA certified. I'm happy to tell you that we are the only duly accredited law enforcement agency in the state of Wisconsin. There are no other municipal agencies that are both nationally and state accredited, except for your police department. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Well, first of all, congratulations, Chief, to you and your staff.
Thanks.
Heck of an achievement, 8 years in a row. Counsel, do you have any?
No, it's an exciting award. Having been involved in that with the sheriff's office over the years, there's a lot to it, and I understand that. You know, it has a lot to do with policies, and it has a lot to do with performance measures. And again, as the mayor said, as deputy mayor, it's a great honor, and it's well-deserved, fire department, and it should give confidence to our citizens that we have one of the top flight police departments in the state of Wisconsin. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Next on the agenda is a public hearing which requires reading 3 times. It's ordinance 17-590, approved comprehensive land use map amendment for a portion of Lake Shore Municipal Golf Course generally located north of Oshkosh Avenue and west of Pinoco Street from park, recreation, and open space to commercial. Staff recommends waiving the rules and adopting on first reading. Second reading, ordinance 17-590, approved comprehensive land use map amendment for a portion of Lake Shore Municipal Golf Course generally located north of Oshkosh Avenue and west of Pinoco Street from park, recreation, and open space to commercial. Staff recommends waiving the rules and adopting on first reading. Third and final reading, ordinance 17-590, approved comprehensive land use map amendment for a portion of Lake Shore Municipal Golf Course generally located north of Oshkosh Avenue and west of Pinoco Street from park, recreation, and open space to commercial. Staff recommends waiving the rules and adopting on first reading. Pam, did anyone want to speak to this?
I have no one registered.
Thank you. If the council would like to suspend the rules, I will in a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Councilmember Pansky?
Thank you, Mayor. Darren, there, in the background information that you provided for this, the word approximately has me a little concerned. This is for 35 acres, correct?
It's approximate because at the time, we didn't have, when we do a land use plan, we don't have, a lot of times it's not, the boundaries aren't parcel specific. When we do zoning, it's parcel specific, but when it's a land use plan, we can be more general. So when we were doing it, we didn't have the land use plan at the time, and it's not matching up to to a property line. So it's,
So more specific information will be coming forward?
when we do the actual CSM, things like
Okay.
that, and zoning,
Okay.
correct.
Do you know when that will be?
We're working on the CSM right now. I expect we'll have that available by the end of the year.
Okay, thanks.
Deputy Mayor Herman.
Just a little further explanation, what, to our citizens, what does that mean? You know, there was some concern about giving up parkland space, obviously, and we don't have as much parkland as we should have for a city our size. So by changing this, by mapping it, we're just basically changing the designation, what the land can be used for?
That's correct. What would follow with the land use change from parks from parks and zoning of institutional to a commercial type zoning, and basically what we would do is we'd follow up with a zone change on that, and that's forthcoming within the next month or so.
Okay.
Later on in the agenda, Mr. Mayor, later on in the agenda, we have a little chart that we're going to share with council that's in your packet, looking forward, looking ahead to what approvals are going to be forthcoming. This is just the planning part, the zoning part will be just in there.
Councilmember Palmieri.
Darren, just a quick math question, I guess. Originally, I think we were talking about the entire golf course being 107 acres roughly. So we've accounted for 35 for Oshkosh Corporation and then 65 for the remaining acreage. So my math serves me, there's kind of roughly 7 acres missing there. Would that be from some of the ponding, or where did the other 7 acres go?
We actually hired the surveyor to survey the entire parcel, so it will include not only the Oshkosh Court parcel, but the balance of the property, so we'll know exact acreage, because I think the old legal descriptions didn't actually total up to how many acres are out there. And some of it might be due to right-of-way that's been acquired over the years, some of it might have been just mismeasured back in the 1800s or early 1900s when the deeds were originally created. So we'll have those specific numbers as part of the certified survey map, so you can see that.
Thanks.
Would you like to take the roll on waiving the rules?
Palmieri,
Aye.
Allison Osby,
Aye.
Herman,
Aye.
Pansky,
Aye.
Krause,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
carried 6.
Now I'd like a motion, a second, for ordinance 17-590.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Would you please take the roll?
Palmieri,
Aye.
Allison Osby,
Aye.
Herman,
Aye.
Pansky,
Aye.
Krause. I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
Aye.
Thank you. Cummings,
Aye.
carried 6.
Now we have the first chance of citizen statements to council. Citizens are to address the council only. Statements are limited to 5 minutes. Must address items that are not listed in the council meeting agenda, are limited to issues that have an impact on the city of Oshkosh, and the common council may address at a future meeting, and must not include endorsements of any candidates or other electioneering. Pam, do we have anyone that's registered to speak?
Yes, we do. Dan Rylance, 602 East Parkway Avenue.
Good evening, Dan Ryland, 602 East Parkway. I want to read a brief Christmas letter I received in the mail recently. It was addressed to the Oshkosh Common Council, so I would like to read it. Dear members of the Oshkosh Common Council, what a year you have experienced. Lots of big and important developments that will make Oshkosh better and stronger in the years ahead. There were disappointments as well. I received petitions from children all around the world, and I try to answer them. I don't fully understand your reasoning on the second petition to reduce the penalty for possession of small amount of marijuana. I have never received a petition with 3,700 signatures, but if I did, I would respond positively. The most distressing aspect, however, about the last meeting is even my lead reindeer Rudolph was shocked by the rudeness of some of the council members to the witnesses who appeared in support of the petition. Some of the citizens were insulted, others were badgered, and still others were both insulted and badgered. For a council who preaches civility on the part of us, the citizens, you even have a plaque up here about civility. The behavior of some of your council members clearly indicates to me that some of you do not practice what you preach. Rudolph told me later that I have never spoken to any of the other reindeers, even at a business Christmas season. So I must close now, as I might have much work to do. Merry Christmas, Santa Claus.
Anyone else?
I'm sorry, Alexandra LeRae Klotz, 906 CP Avenue. Okay. Mark Kelderman, W2457 Lamira Drive, Brownsville.
Mark Kelderman, Brownsville. I just wanted to say thank you for engaging last week. I thought there was some positive conversation toward our end goal, and we felt that we made some inroads in spite of uncomfortable moments probably generated by both sides. There were some statements that gravely concerned us and still do, but we think that truth rises on this matter, and public opinion is on the side of cannabis reform. So I won't rehash that here, other than to say thank you to Pam and her staff for dealing with 1 million signatures. It seemed like, if you've never tried to decipher some of those petition sheets that have been out in the rain and handled a lot, you don't have any idea how tough of a task that can be. So having said that, Mr. Peck asked about the penalty for open container last week when we were talking about the amount, why we decided 25. And 25 was a figure that we arrived at because we thought we didn't want the city losing money every time they wrote a ticket with the mailing cost and the actual printing cost of the ticket. We thought it was lowering the fine as much as we possibly could without it becoming a loss for the city. But Mr. Peck thought it would be more commensurate, should be more commensurate with the open container charge. And last week, I don't think anybody had that information here, but we looked it up in the meantime. I think it was 17.7 maybe in the municipal code. I think it's $75 to $500 for an open container charge. And I just throw that out there, even though Mr. Peck isn't here, because the question never got answered last week. So we don't know what action the council will take in regards to our ordinance, but we're encouraged by some of the events from since last meeting, and we just look forward to being of any assistance we can be in that process. Thank you.
I have no one else registered for citizen
All
statements.
right, thank you, Pam. Now it's consent agenda. It's now moving to the consent agenda. These are items of a routine administrative nature that are voted on by the council in a single roll call vote. Staff recommends approval of all items. Any member of the public or common council may request it that an item be removed from the consent agenda for discussion. Pam, has anyone signed up to speak?
I have no one registered.
I will bring it back to the council for a motion and a second.
So moved. Second.
A discussion? I see no lights lighting up, so would you please take the roll?
Palmieri,
Aye.
Allison Osby,
Aye.
Herman,
Aye.
Pansky,
Aye.
Krause,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
carried 6.
We're now at the point of, there are no items removed from the consent agenda, so moving on to pending ordinances. The first is ordinance 17-610. Approve amendment to comprehensive land use maps changing the land use designation for properties generally located at 1610 Oshkosh Avenue to 1746 Oshkosh Avenue from residential to commercial. Pam, has anyone registered to speak to this ordinance?
I have no one registered.
I'll bring it back to council for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Councilperson Palmieri?
Yes, Mr. Burrich, you and I spoke about this yesterday, and we were I had asked the question whether or not this, whether or not the intention would be in that commercial area for planned development and mixed use to be allowed in that. And I just wanted to clarify that would be forthcoming.
Right now, for the land use action, we're changing it from residential to commercial. The future zoning that we're looking at that area won't have it as won't have a mixed-use structure as a permitted use, but through the planned development and based on a modification, that would be something.
That could be achieved?
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Would you please take the roll?
Palmieri,
Aye.
Allison Osby,
Aye.
Herman,
Aye.
Piansky,
Aye.
Krause,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
carried 6.
Ordinance 17-611, designate bike lanes on both sides of Wisconsin Street from the Riverwalk sidewalk connections on the north end of the bridge to Irving Avenue. Is anyone registered to speak to this ordinance?
I have no one registered.
Pending ordinance. Bring it back to the council for a motion and a second.
So moved?
Second.
Discussion. Would you please take the roll?
Palmieri,
Aye.
Allison Osby,
Aye.
Herman,
Aye.
Piansky,
Aye.
Krause,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
carried 6.
Ordinance 17-612, establish street grades, third edition to Casey's Meadow South. Pam, has anyone signed up for this?
I have no one registered.
Bring it back to the council for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Would you please take the roll?
Palmieri,
Aye.
Allison Osby,
Aye.
Herman,
Aye.
Piansky,
Aye.
Krause,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
carried 6.
Our final pending ordinance is ordinance 17-613, authorized public construction, third edition to Casey's Meadow South. Is anyone registered to speak to this pending, or this ordinance?
No one is registered.
Bring it back to the council for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Would you please take the roll?
Palmieri,
Aye.
Allison Osby,
Aye.
Herman,
Aye.
Piansky,
Aye.
Krause,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
carried 6.
We move to new resolutions. The first is Resolution 17-614, approve amendment to development agreement TIF 31 Fox Valley Pro Basketball, Inc. Is anyone registered to speak to this resolution?
No one is registered.
Bring it back to the council for a motion and a second.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? Councilperson Allison Osby.
Thank you. I am going to recuse myself of this due to the relationship I have with Mr. Pierce.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Herman.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Roloff, could you explain some of the changes since this is involving a tax increment financing district?
Sure. This has to do with some language that we had in the agreement regarding our appropriation of our tax increment, which council does on an annual basis. The bank had some concern over that it's in there, even though we have every right to appropriate those funds as we deem fit. And the council typically follows the TIF plan and when they do their appropriation authority. The bank asked that be removed. City attorney had some concerns about making sure that it didn't presume that suddenly this became a general obligation of the city. So she and Mr. Lokensgaard, who's our outside counsel for our development agreements, they crafted some language that clarifies that even though we're going to take that appropriation language out, it will still not become a general obligation of the city, which means that whether you appropriate the funds or not, it's coming out of tax increment.
Okay. And then it also kind of protects Fox Valley Pro Basketball too, so that all the Ts are crossed, Is are dotted and everything, so that down the line, 15, 20 years from now?
Yeah, the benefit for them is that should they seek some loan financing for the balance of the arena project, that that language could devalue the value of their loan, and we don't want that to happen to them. We want to be able to maximize it.
Okay, very good, thank you.
I see no further discussion required. Would you please take the roll?
Palmieri,
Aye.
Allison Osby,
Present?
Herman,
Aye.
Pansky,
Aye.
Krausy,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
carried 5-1 present.
Resolution 17-615, approve agreement with Greater Oshkosh Economic Development Corporation for Economic Development Services, $98,000.
Jason White, 1204 Fairfax Street.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Because you're moving so quickly through the agenda, I feel better about making this request, and that is to permission to exceed the 5-minute limit this evening for my presentation. My presentation is less than 5 minutes, but I do have a video I wanted to show, and that will exceed the 5-minute threshold. Also, I believe my colleague, Ms. Audra Hoy, has also registered to speak tonight. She will not be speaking, and so that also removes some time off of your next speaker as well, although Audra is here for questions, so following the presentation.
I will ask my colleagues if it's okay to give them more than the 5 minutes.
Yep, that's fine.
All right, thank you very much.
Go ahead, Jason.
The first thing I want to do as we go into this is I want to thank you for your support of Greater Oshkosh Economic Development Corporation, and also for your hand in also forming our organization several years ago. And obviously, hopefully we have worked on your behalf and also the behalf of the community to make you proud and certainly have an impact. Also this evening, obviously in front of you and in your packet is a request to continue funding. The level, I believe, for next year is at the same level as it was for the first 3 years of our initial campaign. So now we're heading into a new campaign in 2018, wrapping up our inaugural campaign 2015 through 2017. Greater Oshkosh EDC is fulfilling the original intent and purpose behind the organization's formation. One is the recognition of the importance of helping Oshkosh businesses grow in Oshkosh. We have a lot of great companies here, so preserving that investment in our community through our business retention and expansion efforts comes before anything else that we do. We are also building relationships with commercial real estate, commercial real estate community, which I also know was important at the outset of the formation of this organization. Oshkosh has a lot of city-owned land, obviously, in the industrial parks, particularly the Southwest Industrial Parks, as we've talked in the past. But we have relationships with over 150 real estate brokers that we communicate with on a consistent basis as we work through business leads. Additionally, as was noted through the Prager report several years ago, at that time, our community was not packaging high-quality proposals to companies that were considering Oshkosh for a location. But I really believe that our proposals as an organization have been very high quality, obviously as evidenced through the proposals to the Milwaukee Bucks and the Oshkosh Corporation submission. Additionally, I want to thank this council for your support of the revolving loan fund and the Capital Catalyst program. Since Greater Oshkosh began managing these funds, the revolving loan fund has loaned $105,000 in loans, and the Capital Catalyst Fund has distributed $165,000 in loans and $50,000 in grants. Grants are the WEDC portion. We want to give you and the folks at home maybe watching tonight updates on several of the companies who have been supported with the revolving loan fund and the Capital Catalyst Fund. Offbeat Press was the first loan recipient of the revolving loan fund. They purchased equipment to improve their processes, increase turnaround times, and lower their prices to be more marketplace competitive. They have also been adding new positions. 5G Benefits has grown significantly since receiving the RLF support. The funding helped with cash flow and hiring. 5G Benefits is on pace for $1 million of sales in 2017 and will be over $2 million of sales with an insurance agency acquisition. 5G Benefits is one of Wisconsin's fastest growing health insurance agencies and the #1 agency for network health, a local health insurance carrier for new groups in 2016 and 2017. Mission Move provides educational exercise videos for children grades K through 5. With Capital Catalyst support, they have a fully finished platform in some of the country's largest school districts, Last month, they signed with Chicago Public Schools and Clark County Public Schools in Nevada, placing them in 2 of the top 5 largest U.S. districts. Icarus Devices develops flight training devices to reduce spatial awareness accidents. They graduated in the 2015 Aero Innovate class, which coincidentally was also the class that Audra led that year at UW Oshkosh. Icarus is working with Lockheed Martin and receiving research, development, and grant writing support. They are presenting to Honeywell in Phoenix and flight testing at Purdue and Ohio State. Fifth Ward Brewery is getting a very enthusiastic response since their recent opening downtown. The neighborhood has been very welcoming to their presence, and they feel it is really exciting to see South Main Street corridor alive again. Their partnership with the arena has also helped. They are beginning to distribute north of Oshkosh into Menasha, Appleton, Neenah, and Winneconne, with plans for Green Bay in the coming month. They are exceeding sales and production expectations. Roberts Defense is a local gun manufacturer that was assisted through the Capital Catalyst Fund. They were able to hire marketing help and boost brand awareness by developing a new website. Several magazines have featured their products. They are also hosted at Marvel Manufacturing. Bee Bella is a group of local beekeepers that developed a sustainable lip balm from beeswax. The Capital Catalyst Fund helped them expand to 38 states and 400 retailers, and is starting to onboard at several nationwide retailers. They will soon hire their first employee. So that's a little bit of a summary of the portfolio that we've been able to assist to date. And now I wanted to take a moment to play the video that we showed at our November 27th event. It features some of the projects that we've assisted, some positive testimonials, and what we look forward to with our next campaign now underway, Grow EDC. Didn't test the volume, so hopefully it'll work. The community of Oshkosh believed that there was a need for a public-private economic development partnership to serve as both a liaison between the public and the private and the nonprofit sectors, and bring the resources of the community together as it related to helping the community compete for new business investment, helping businesses grow, and also bringing tools and resources to the table to help new businesses start in our community.
The Oshkosh Area Community Foundation supports Greater Oshkosh because there's a need for growth and economic development in the community. The growth of Oshkosh will come with more economic development. With more people living in the community and working in the community, there's more money in the community, both for tax dollars and for businesses and for the service industry. Oshkosh growth is going to come from more businesses here.
Continental Jabal makes laundry equipment. We import it and bring it into the United States and distribute it throughout the United States, Canada, and the Caribbean. Greater Oshkosh helped us with our expansion of our facility. Because of rapid growth, we needed to get bigger to be able to house more products for instant shipment. Greater Oshkosh helped us go through the community channels and, most importantly, the Department of Natural Resources, and helped us bridge that gap that existed and did a wonderful job of it. For a business to be able to just go and deal with organizations like the DNR and the city, it's difficult. We're not politicians. We don't know who to talk to. Greater Oshkosh got involved as the intermediary to speed up our approvals so that we could expand our business.
Greater Oshkosh has been an ultimate partner for the SBDC and for the Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation. It is our belief that they are really the catalyst for businesses here. They are the connector. Our two departments really are focused on helping anybody looking to start or grow their business. We work within the region, but then we also take the Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation and work primarily with students. They're the relationship builder. They are the ones that are taking these companies that need extra support and finding the resources that they need and taking them and helping them along the way. It has been an amazing resource to have in this community. I have numerous clients that would not be in business today if it wasn't for Greater Oshkosh.
Fifth Ward Brewing Company started down in my college basement. Ian and I met and we had this idea to create a craft brewery. At first we did not know where we were going to take it, but it developed into more of a beer manufacturer. We're here to produce beer on a large scale.
We started working with Greater Oshkosh when we found out that we were going to need a little bit of gap financing. We had purchased the building, we had found a bank loan that was suitable for our needs. With the money we had raised, we ended up being about $55,000 short in collateral coverage, so what GoEDC provided was enough to cover that collateral shortfall, which allowed us then to sort of pull the trigger on the bank loan and move things forward. Greater Oshkosh's involvement empowered us as young entrepreneurs. They really believed in what we were doing and got on board with us and allowed us to really take that next step towards opening the doors up. Without Greater Oshkosh's assistance, we may still be looking for financing.
My job is to market Oshkosh and make sure that we look the best we can, that we are the most fun, that we have the most to offer for tourists that are coming in from really all over the world. Economic development and tourism development really go hand in hand. The more people that live here and enjoy the great quality of life that we have to offer in Oshkosh, the more people that are going to see that, visit here, it all really goes hand in hand. So Greater Oshkosh is the catalyst to kind of get all of the organizations in Oshkosh together, kind of speaking in that one voice about our Oshkosh. Basically has become a pillar of our community as far as moving us forward in that economic space.
Having a dedicated economic development corporation in Oshkosh makes me feel pretty good, because it means that we're going to attract more business. And the businesses that we can attract may support some of the things that I'm doing in our business as a resource.
When I'm talking to companies or potential individuals that want to locate a company to this region, I feel very confident knowing that I can pass them off to Greater Oshkosh and they're going to get the support and the resources that they need to make the decision that they need to move here.
Our entire community benefits from having a strong economic development corporation here in Oshkosh. The bottom line is our schools are better, tourism is better, everything is better when there's strong economics in our community.
For every $1 invested in Greater Oshkosh, that translates to $43 reinvested into the local Greater Oshkosh economy.
It is something that lifts us all. Once we all stand behind and work together, we are able to do just countless things in this community, and our future is extremely bright.
I want to thank all of our investors for supporting us, and I want to invite all businesses in our community of all sizes to invest in our organization as we help businesses in our community achieve their dreams in Greater Oshkosh.
We need you to grow EDC.
We need you to grow EDC.
We need you.
We need you.
We need you.
We need you.
We need you to grow EDC. Thank you for your time and attention and support and any questions you might have.
I see no one wanting to speak, so Jason, thank you very much. Audra?
Thank you.
Thank you.
And congratulations. Bring it back to council for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion?
I would just, sorry about that. I just wanted to touch base. I was delayed at my office, so I apologize for being late. I know several of us, when we ran for council, targeted economic development as one of our platforms, and myself, Ms. Allison Osby, Mr. Herman, Mr. Cummings, were all instrumental in getting GoEDC started. And this is not to basically stand here and pat ourselves on the back, but it's to basically discuss history. And that history since GoEDC has been formed, as we've seen this year and the years past, has been a great success. And with that, I will heartily support our continuing partnership with GoEDC.
I would agree. It's been a rapid 12 to 18 months in what's happened between the Wisconsin Herd, Oshkosh Corp Global Headquarters, almost at dizzying speed. We haven't really had a chance to catch our breath. And I've said this before, other cities in the state are looking and watching Oshkosh. There was a recent article in the Racine Journal-Times about the reasons Oshkosh won the Milwaukee herd, or the Wisconsin herd, and Racine did not, and it boiled down to collaboration that took place in Oshkosh, which doesn't exist in Racine. That's one of the reasons they lost out on their bid to get the Wisconsin herd here. So it's all about teamwork, as my grandson calls it, in collaboration. So it's been a fast-paced environment, which I enjoy. So it's congratulations, Audra, and Jason, and the rest of your crew.
Just one last thing, how are you going to top 2017? Yeah. No, it's on you.
Well, we have all this industrial land that we'd like to see buildings on. I see no other lights on, so would you please take the roll?
Palmieri.
Aye.
Allison Osby.
Aye.
Herman.
Aye.
Pansky.
Aye.
Krause.
Aye.
Peck.
Aye.
Cummings.
Aye.
Carried 7.
Resolution 17616, approve architectural design for construction of sanitary lift station at 1507 North Eagle Street, which is Mary Jewel Park. Plan Commission recommends approval. Pam, is there anyone that wishes to speak
Yes.
to this?
Matt Mugrower, 2321 Golden Avenue.
Good evening. Thanks for the chance to speak this evening. I'll keep it brief, but my concerns regarding this is you approved a plan, you approved a design back in October, and this is coming back before you to spend another $140,000 of our hard-earned tax dollars on basically aesthetics. That money can be used on so many other better things than improving the looks of a bathroom. I understand the location. I understand some of the plan commission's thoughts on this and their comparison to other buildings that we've constructed. Personally, I think some of the Boatworks facility one is just fine. I think it looks very nice in there, and I hope it looks great next to the completed Riverwalk that we have coming in the next year or two. But I think to spend $140,000 on just improving the looks of a bathroom and a pump house is wasteful, and you definitely can spend that money a little bit better. So that's what I ask you to do. Look forward to seeing how you vote. Thank you.
Pam, anyone else?
I have no one else.
I bring it back to the council for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Deputy Mayor Herman.
I guess I get, Mr. Davis, maybe you can answer this question, kind of to Mr. Mugrower's concerns. What was the discussion, because the Parks Board had weighed in on this also, and then there was some concern about the design of it, why we're it's being raised up, which is costing us quite a bit of money, but it also has to do with now the location and now the changing of the zoning and some things. So could you just kind of go into what was the planning commission's weigh in?
Yes, if I was to characterize the Plan Commission's concerns, number one, it's on a very visible corridor. Oshkosh Avenue would be one of our gateways to the community and to the downtown, and they wanted to make sure that any public buildings on that corridor were as a high standard for that, because I think the Plan Commission expects that we'll have a very high standard for the private development that's going to be taking place on that property as well, just to the west on the as part of the land use plan amendment that we just adopted tonight in the zoning. So we're going to have very high standards for architectural development on the private side as well, and I thought the Plan Commission wanted to help set a standard, I would characterize it as, for that corridor and that specific location.
Okay. And then this is a joint project between the Public Works and the Parks Department, correct?
That's what I've been told, yes.
Okay. And then, so it's a multi-use facility. Obviously, the pump station is the key thing for controlling flooding in that area. And then obviously to enhance the bathrooms for Mary Jewel, which is one of our busier youth baseball diamonds in the city.
And doesn't have a bathroom.
And it doesn't have one at all right now, currently, correct? So, okay, thank you.
Councilmember Palmieri.
Yes, Mr. Davis, just a question regarding the staff document here. It's referencing the pump house and the park shelter being 2,371 square feet. in size with 6,055 square feet of pavement located south and east of the building. I also note that they're proposing to add grass block reinforced pavers. So that 6,055 square feet of pavement south and east of the building, what would that be for? And is that permeable or impervious surface?
Boy, I might have to pass that question
Oh, sure.
on.
Good evening. I can take that. It is for a paved access way. It is not purpose. It is for access for the maintenance equipment to be able to drive from Eagle Street up to the shelter and get alongside of the shelter so that equipment that needs to be moved in and out of the building, which is, the pumps are very heavy. They have to be lifted by a hoist, put on a hand cart, rolled out of the building, and they need to be changed, and then a hoist truck has to be able to pick those pumps up and load them. So it's a loading area outside of there for the equipment, serves as access to the facility as well.
And so the added grass block reinforced pavers, that's in addition to the 6,055 square feet, right? Or is that part of that? That's where I'm a little confused.
Typically, the
The grass pavers wouldn't count towards impervious.
typically they would not count toward impervious. I was just trying to skim through the memo quick and see that. So, no, I think the grass, we changed the area to a grass block paver where the vehicles are just gonna have to back in to turn around. It's not where they have to do any of the maintenance activities for rolling any of the carts over. So we were able to change those areas to the grass paver to reduce the impacts on that.
Okay, thank you.
One of the goals of the Plan Commission has been to raise the bar architecturally, both for city projects and developer projects. And we've been asking more of developers. We want higher standards. Our first move in that direction was some detailing on the field operations facility on Whistle Street. We felt it was important that we invest some money in some architectural integrity for that building, because if we're asking it of developers, then we better lead by example. This will be on a gateway to the city, and the discussion amongst the Plan Commission, some council members is whatever goes on Oshkosh Avenue, will become a major gateway. It better be A+ development. We're asking things such as architecturally buildings have to be have integrity from 360 degrees. In other words, if the front is brick, all three sides have to be brick. So this is a major, major change in how we're looking at development in the city, but I think it's critical as the city grows that this is our chance with Oshkosh Avenue in this area to set new standards for the city, especially on gateways. So, Councilmember Pansky.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Godey, just a follow-up question with what you stated as far as the maintenance on these pumps. How often are we planning on changing them? And I'm not familiar with this type of structures. I don't deal with this every day. I can't imagine that area would be utilized in this manner that often.
For the pump removal, no, but it is accessed weekly by the service equipment. They'll be bringing tools in and out on a weekly basis to service and work on the lift station.
And gravel is not sufficient?
Gravel's not permitted.
Oh, well, that works. My opinion, I think I was one of the few that was against this since the very beginning, but Mr. Mugarower hit the nail on the head with this. It's a bathroom, it's a pump house. As long as it serves its purpose for those two issues, I believe the original design was just fine, and I will not be supporting this evening.
Deputy Mayor Herman.
Mr. Brands there, what's the life expectancy of the pump station and the whole overall structure of the building? Because it's being designed primarily as a pump station, bathroom, secondary, so how many years of life do we usually get out of those?
Typically, equipment life will be about 20 years, but we do weekly maintenance checks, alarms and things like that. We do monthly maintenance. We pull the pumps every year to inspect them and make sure everything is okay, and then it may be 5-10 year cycle I should go in and replace pumps. So we have a regular maintenance routine that we do with the equipment and things in the building. So depending on we occasionally have to get the vac equipment from the street department to come in and clean wet wells and things like that. So that's part of the reason
we need something that can support a back truck to get in there so that we can pump that out periodically, clean grit out of the wet well and do maintenance to it, so.
And how many pump stations in this area do we have?
Well, this is gonna replace one. We have a small pump station over by Ponoqua. And this pump station, because of the rerouting of sewer and the sewer improvements we're doing, will replace that. And we're also, I believe, dealing with an old sanitary sewer siphon that goes under the creek nearby there, eliminating that. That's been problematic. So this is kind of a plan that's been incorporated with a bunch of sanitary sewer improvements and upgrading that Ponoqua lift station, which we were planning on doing work on in the future anyhow, so.
And then just one final, will this pump station have any involvement in the future development of Oshkosh Corp's corporate headquarters, or no?
You know, I'm not sure, Steve, maybe you can answer that as far as how.
Or we're not at that stage yet to know?
This lift station is not planned to serve the Oshkosh Corp area at all.
Okay, this is strictly for, what is it, Westfield and that general area, Oshkosh Avenue, and the flooding that we've experienced in that area?
This is for sanitary sewer only, not.
Sanitary sewer.
So it is the area essentially Eagle Street and east from Sawyer Creek north to the Fox River.
Okay.
So it's north and south of Oshkosh Avenue, but generally east of.
And then we'd be pumping that into down to the Rainbow Park area, or where does that go with it?
It will be, the lift station will pump the waste up to Oshkosh Avenue, will then flow westerly toward Westfield Street where the sewer was replaced with the reconstruction recently.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Palmieri.
Yes, I would just like to ask, this page here with the before and after the original and the proposed design. I assume that's what we're talking about, right?
Yes, it is. It was just a
Could we
better image
maybe-
that was in the packet.
Yeah, if we could maybe put it up so that the public can see, and maybe you could point out some of the differences between the two.
Certainly. We have them on two separate images for on the computer screen, so they're not quite so small to be seen by the audience. This is the previous design that was as built. What you can see on here is there is a CMU split face block, basically knee wall along the lower portion of the building, the wood timber posts out there, building height. The roof on this particular side has only the skylights protruding through for the bathroom on it. On the opposite side that you can't see in this image is a single dormer. Jumping to the next image here, which is the combination of all of the possible options. Pay attention to the roof line as I switch slides here. You can see the roof line drops by about 2 feet as we go back and forth between these two images, and you can and it shrinks above the people, the images of the people on the front. You can see where it lowers as it goes forward to bring the building down in size a little bit. There were 6 dormers added in this one, 3 on each side that can be seen. The CMU block was changed to a stone veneer. It was also increased in height from basically just a knee wall to up to the top of the door sills. There was added stone veneer and the sill plate to the posts from on the exterior. As I mentioned, lowered the roof, and it replaced some of the cement board siding on each end with the wood paneling that is on the underneath side. And you can just see that. I don't believe I have the ability to point, but it's just, if you're looking at the end of the building, you can see it. It's on the wall of the building, on the gabled ends of the building.
If I could just follow up then. So do those 6 dormers serve any functional purpose, or is that completely aesthetic?
The one dormer served as a ventilation unit, ventilation purpose on the original design. With the redesign and the lowering, they were able to remove, if we look at the original image here, you can see several small dark spots along above the doorways. Those were ventilation units and ways for ventilation within the building. With this redesign, they are moved up and included in the dormers and the louvers that are up there. They are primarily aesthetic, but they were able to be incorporated to remove a few of the extra penetrations that were on the exterior walls.
And then I just noticed too, there's a few picnic tables there in the concept or the rendering. Is it intended that this could also be potentially used or reserved by the public for small gatherings? Is that kind of what the vision was?
My recollection is it was not intended to be a reservable shelter. It was meant primarily there, at the time, a storm shelter for the golf course, also for use of the ball diamond, and then a place for people to go in and get out of the sun should they need to during the course of the event.
Okay, thanks.
Councilman Peck.
I think I'll defer to Mr. Herman at this time.
Okay, thank you. I can answer that, Councilmember Palmieri. That came up in the Parks Board discussion. It is not going to be a rentable shelter. The picnic table area in that was kind of designed for the use of the ball diamond, so that when teams are playing there, they could have, if they're having a tournament or something, they would have a place to sit. And that, because the concern was the proximity of neighborhoods in the area, to have that noise and that later on. And then the other part was for the use of the trail, being close proximity that people could stop there and rest, or bikers. But it was not going to be a rentable shelter as part of our shelter program. Thank you.
Councilman Palmieri.
Oh, sorry.
I didn't erase.
I'm done.
Okay. Erase yourself.
Okay.
I think it's very similar to the way Stevens Park is used. Councilman Peck, did I just skip over you?
I deferred, and you took me off the... All right, Mr. Mugarauer makes a great point, but I do remember several years ago when the pump station was built across down by Webster Stanley, that many people talked about, "Ooh, how ugly it was. It's just this square building." And so this is one of these situations where we're kind of, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Mr. Cummings makes some good points about we're raising our development standards. The Oshkosh Independent recently, in their report, Miles is ducking down, about the new Clearwater wells that we're going to be building along the lakefront, that we're putting a little more money into them because of the aesthetics of it, so that it blends more into the neighborhood. I don't like spending money any more than anybody else does. But in this instance, I will support this because of the fact that, number one, is people were not thrilled with these square block buildings that we put up, and that they're ugly. So people will say, why didn't you do? And then of course it'll get built, if it gets built without the improvements. People go, why did you build that? Somebody will find something to complain about that. We are investing money into the Clearwater wells, like I did say, to make them fit into the neighborhood. This is going to be a gateway to the city. It's now going to be an area that's going to be used by more and more people. So I am comfortable with, while I, like I say, I don't like spending money more than anybody else, I can understand why we're doing it, and I support it.
Pam, would you take the roll?
Palmieri,
No.
Allison Osby,
Aye.
Herman,
Aye.
Pansky,
No.
Krause,
No.
Peck,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
carried 4-3.
Resolution 17617, renew agreement with Intera Health, Inc. for the provision of employee health clinic services at 3 Waves Health Clinic and Wellness Center. Pam,
I have no one registered.
bring it back with the council for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Would you please take the roll?
Palmieri,
Aye.
Allison Osby,
Aye.
Herman,
Aye.
Pansky,
Aye.
Krause,
Aye.
Peck,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye. Resolution 17-618, approval of fee schedule for sewer user charges. Pam?
I have no one registered.
Deputy Mayor Herman?
We gotta wait till it comes back to us.
Bring it back to council for
I
a
would
motion and a
move for
second.
approval.
I'll second it. I just have a couple questions. It's actually, to save time, if you want to talk about 618, 619, if we can do that, just kind of what, we got all the information to why the fees are going to go up, but we constantly hear from our citizens that our water rates are way too high, our storm sewer and our water utility rates. So can you just kind of give us a synopsis of, and we all got the Ellers report that told us, but what are some of the reasons why our rates are going up, and what do they get for their increase?
Sure. There's three primary factors. One of the main factors is to ensure adequate debt service coverage for existing and proposed debt. This is essential and required as part of our bond covenants. Another very important component would be the additional investment to ensure reliable and safe infrastructure. As we've talked about throughout many of our workshops, we know our infrastructure is stressed and dated and continually needing replacement. And a third component would be the funding to maintain the strict compliance with state and federal mandates and permits. When you do run these utilities, you do and must adhere to a very strict code of compliance and permitting, and these fees do help maintain that we are able to ensure that we are compliant and that our services are safe and reliable.
Okay, and then just a follow-up to that, it's an 8% increase, so is that $33 a quarter, or is that $33 for the whole year increase?
So really how it would work out, we currently have about an 8% proposed increase in our water, about an 8.5% in our sewer, and a 7.5% in our storm. For a typical residential property owner, this will cost approximately about $19 per year, or an 8.11% increase.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Peck.
Thank you, Ms. Larson. The Ellers report that you referenced, we workshopped those reports several times, and there were some, and those are available on the city website. Those were I believe that we've got those out there. Those were the cash flow analyses that were done that basically say, here's the investments that we will have to make into these, as you indicated, to make sure that they stay functional, that when people turn their water on, the water comes in. When they flush the toilet, that the waste goes away, and allow us to continue to maintain the services that the citizens are asking for and improve them as they go, and then as well as to meet those requirements that are put on us by the state and federal government. But again, we are not just simply raising rates to raise rates. There is data behind why they are there. There are financial analyses that are there that explain this, correct?
That would be correct, Councilmember Peck. We do perform each year a 10-year cash flow analysis. And one of the goals of that cash flow analysis is to ensure the consistency in our rates, because one of the most important factors is that our rates are not volatile and that we're having large spikes and unmanageable increases for our rate base. And so each year we do perform a 10-year analysis, which has been a very effective tool in bringing our rate increases down under the double-digit rate increases and predicting them into the future. I think this method has been a proven tool for the last 3 years, and yes, those analyses should be available on our city website.
Yeah, and so basically what we've done is, as you indicated through the cash analyses, is that we've smoothed the increases, and it's basically a little bit every year rather than nothing this year and then a huge spike the following year and then maybe nothing the following year and then another large spike. So it actually is to help our citizens to kind of move into it from there. But again, this information is available, and I would recommend to any citizen who has a question about why these rates are going up to get in and take a look at those. Again, these are not just raising rates to raise rates.
Councilmember Palmieri.
Yes, Mr. Godey, I'm assuming Mr. Robbie's not here, so these questions would be for you, or this question, I should say. In Mr. Robbie's staff memo, he mentions, obviously, we're all familiar with some of our flooding issues, but not everybody is aware of some of the requirements on our permits and practices that prevent pollutants from entering the lakes and rivers. Could you just talk a little bit about the percentages and those requirements? And maybe Ms. Lawrenson may want to help supplement in there too, that we have now met the 20% goal, but can you just talk a little bit about that, just briefly?
Certainly, I didn't bring a copy of the memo up here, but I'll try to get from memory on some of that if I can. Correct, we have met the city of Oshkosh had to come under what's called an MS4 permit for our stormwater regulations several years ago. Part of that permitting process was to get the city to, or one of the requirements of that permit was to get us to a 20% reduction in the pollutants that we discharge to the stormwater, ultimately to 40%. The city has gotten to that 20% reduction of the goal based on the total suspended solids, and we continue to move forward on trying to reduce that, getting closer, knowing that we are facing a TMDL, a total maximum daily load, for phosphorus coming down the road in the near future. What that amount is yet to be determined, but from other studies that have been done in other areas, we know it is going to require substantial effort to continue to remove pollutants out of the water to meet that. So we are continuing to, where we can economically, include these water treatment elements along with flood control projects, be prepared and moving forward for that reduction.
Thank you.
Would you please take the roll?
Palmieri,
Aye.
Allison Osby,
Aye.
Herman,
Aye.
Pansky,
Aye.
Krause,
Aye.
Peck,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
carried 7.
Resolution 17-619. Pam, is anyone registered to speak to this?
No one is registered.
I bring back the council for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Would you please take the roll?
Palmieri,
Aye.
Allison Osby,
Aye.
Herman,
Aye.
Pansky,
Aye.
Krause,
Aye.
Peck,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
carried 7.
Resolution 17-620, approve 2018 across-the-board market increase for non-represented employees. Is anyone registered to speak to this resolution?
No one is registered.
Bring it back to the council for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Peck.
And this is just related to the budget. This was already passed in the budget, but this is just,
Formally authorizing it.
so this isn't additional spending. This has already been approved. It's just dotting the last I.
Making it official. Would you please take the roll?
Palmieri,
Aye.
Allison Osby,
Aye.
Herman,
Aye.
Pansky,
Aye.
Krause,
Aye.
Peck,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
carried 7.
Resolution 17-621, approve renewal of agreement with Town of Algoma Sanitary District Number 1. Pam?
No one is registered.
Bring it back to the council for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Deputy Mayor Herman.
Mr. Roloff, in your memo to council, you're recommending, it looks like the town of Algoma wanted a 10-year contract. We're recommending 1 year. There's no comment in there. Is the town agreeable to that or not agreeable? Or does that mean we have to offer that 1-year contract and see if they accept it? Or where are we at with it?
Do you want to?
Can I jump in?
Yeah, I'll let the city.
I actually had a conversation with their attorney this afternoon, and they approved the 10-year extension. They need to take it back to their board, but they will be recommending that based on the discussion that we had. So you're going to be approving it first, but they'll take it back with a recommendation to
Okay.
their board.
And you did refer to the other townships coming up. Are those in this calendar year too, or are they?
They're coming up in the next 3 years.
Okay.
And I think this is going to help serve as the basis for those as well, because they're going to be covering a lot of those issues.
And I know you weren't here, and neither was I, but these agreements go way, way back. Why are we doing 40-year agreements with townships on Sanitary sewers, is that normal?
No, this is we just had a 10-year agreement
Right, this was
extended.
10-year, but,
Yeah.
I mean,
So these have been a 10-year agreements, but
is that
these are-
normal to go that long?
Well,
with
you-
today's rates and where things are?
It's not the rates itself that, those change on an annual basis based on our rates. So the rates that you just approved for sewer, they extend to our volume users. I mean, industrial.
Border agreements or how?
Yeah, all that. This is just saying that we will provide that service, and so they do want some certainty. So a 10-year agreement is appropriate in there. Setting a rate for 10 years would be inappropriate. That's why annually, those rates will apply to all of our institutional type users in all of the sanitary districts that surround us, Black Wolf, Algoma, et cetera. They are subject to annual changes that are approved by council.
Okay, and maybe just a follow-up, maybe you can't answer it, and I didn't get a chance to ask it earlier, but how does, like, what Mr. Peck was asking with the phosphorus and all those things, how does that affect, because that's all part of that too, is that part of the rate increase, or how do they help pay for some of that?
Yes, and that's part of the reason we want a year to take a look at those things. We want to make sure all those things are being covered, because you honed in on just one of those issues.
Right.
That could be very capital intensive, and capital investment is one of the elements of the components of that bill. And we want to make sure that all of those components are getting paid for on a regular basis. And for us to get into an agreement, then we would be locking in the formula.
Right.
The formula will change, or the formula won't change annually, the amount might change, but if we get a formula that doesn't work in our favor in terms of us replacing capital equipment, then we could be finding ourselves regretting that down the road.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Would you please take the roll?
Palmieri,
Aye.
Allison Osby,
Aye.
Herman,
Aye.
Pansky,
Aye.
Rousey,
Aye.
Peck,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
carried 7.
Now it's the time for council discussion, direction to the city manager, and future agenda items. The first future agenda item is a joint workshop with Traffic Review Board and Plan Commission to discuss traffic impact study, January 30th, time to be determined.
This is part of the traffic impact analysis that the council's authorized for the Oshkosh Gap corridor. We believe it'll be ready by, before the end of January. We'd like to get it to council a couple weeks in advance, as well as the Traffic Review Board and Plan Commission, because there's going to be implications for everybody, and we thought we'd have one larger workshop with all of those boards just in one fell swoop. I don't think it'll take more than an hour, hour and a half. It'll be pretty much a workshop like we've had before, but with so many of you, we probably want to add a little more time because there'll likely be more questions. The time to be determined is really up to council. I'd suggest to make sure you maximize the number of people that can show up, maybe a little later than 5 o'clock, maybe 5:30. That way it'd give people time to get back from work or wherever their obligations might be that day. So I'd throw out as a suggestion it's 5:30, but certainly it's up to council.
I'm okay with 5:30.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
And similarly, there's also, the last meeting, there was a discussion by some members during public comment about transportation for students, but the council has also asked that we regularly have a meeting with the school board. Time flies, it's already been a full year. I don't want to necessarily lock it into just the transportation issue, but clearly that was a topic that the council had asked about. But I'd certainly welcome any suggestions on that. We're looking at January 31st. Again, a time to be determined. It's our turn to host, so it would be here. I'm suggesting, again, maybe a 5:30 time to get everybody locked in. I will point out, it's the 5th, it's a 5 Tuesday month in January, so I'm basically locking up your week with Monday and Tuesday. So I apologize for that, but,
Tuesday and Wednesday.
Tuesday and Wednesday.
excuse me, Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah, it's-
So, but tis the season.
I think we did at one time talk about meeting with the school board on a quarterly basis, and we've sort of, every time I see Allison Gardner, we kind of say we should get together, and we,
But we have, good topics to talk about.
Right.
And I'd certainly welcome suggestions from council. We'll put it on the next agenda so that we have, well, actually, there'll be 2 more meetings before you have that meeting. So, give some thought to things that you want to talk about. As you talk to Ms. Garner or any other member of the school board, they may have some ideas. The transportation issue is certainly one of them.
Okay,
We're thinking 5:30?
Yeah. And again, I think that'd probably take an hour, hour and a half.
and we're planning a meeting here.
It's our turn to host, yes. And we'll have the,
Isn't there a school board meeting that night?
no, this is a fifth
Okay.
one, so it's open for everyone.
Okay. Next, we have provide direction to staff on amending a municipal ordinance for first offense marijuana possession. Councilmember Kraus.
Krause.
Krause.
Thank you. Full disclosure, first of all, I've never done an illegal drug in my life, so obviously I'm not supporting new standard for this ordinance or new solution to marijuana use in the city. I just trying to keep up with times. I mean, you can go through some of the cities that have changed their policy. Milwaukee, they have a $50 fine with a $74 court fee to $124. Madison charges nothing if they catch somebody, up to discretion up to $100, and their court fee is $87, so it's $187. Neenah mirrored Madison's ordinance change to $187. La Crosse and Wausau have a $50 fine with a $74 court fee. The difference with those cities are they have city courts, so their court fees are much lower, where we're saddled with Winnebago County's court fees, which are substantially higher. I'm just trying to get more in line with comparable cities. We're like the 7th largest city in the state, and 8 of the 15 cities have lowered fines. So I'm just trying to compare and stay with, progressive cities that we claim to be as a progressive leader. So I don't know if we wanted to throw numbers around for proposal, but that's kind of where I wanted to be at tonight, just to kind of get ideas out there for everybody to share. Thank you.
Councilmember Peck.
Thank you. I had reached out to corporation, or city, our city attorney, and suggested that, as it was stated earlier this evening, yes, I did throw out something, and as it was stated earlier this evening, that particular violation for open containers is anywhere from 75 to 500. So the argument could be made, if I wanted to, I could probably say, let's go to 500, make it equal to open intoxicants. It's currently 325 for the marijuana. Yes, I understand what Mr. Krause is saying about progressive communities and everything else, but I still get down to the fact that this is still, while yes, there is a changing attitude, this is still illegal in the state of Wisconsin. And that is, and Madison is where the change should be made. When that change is made in Madison, I'm all in. I understand medicinal marijuana, and I fully support the use of medicinal marijuana. But I draw the line we'll take that off the table. This is related to recreational use. I can't go down to $25. That's just ridiculous. It's been argued that part of the reason that is that there's been several arguments that have been made, and one of them consistently is out there, that these people who get these fines, that they have to make a decision between paying their rent, paying their heat, buying food, whatever it is. Well, there's youth who get citations for underage drinking, which is in the neighborhood of about anywhere from $150 to $250. Now, if we're truly concerned about people not being able to pay, the impact that these fines have on them, then we should be talking about basically, let's talk about underage drinking, which is illegal against state statutes, the same thing as possession of marijuana. Yes, and again, I will reiterate, attitudes are changing. Unfortunately, in the state of Wisconsin, the law is the law. So, I am willing to go, my direction would be is I would ask the city attorney to draw a draw up a resolution to change the municipal ordinance to reduce the first offense marijuana possession fine to $200. It keeps it in line, it basically makes the statement that it is illegal behavior. It is treated the same as underage drinking, as our open containers are and everything else, which are all illegal. So, I cannot go to zero. I can't go down that low thing, down to that low end, but I can come off the top. So that's my direction, would be to set it at $200 plus the court costs, because whether it is those court costs will have to be paid, whether it's through the city or through the offender. So it would be $200 plus costs.
Councilman Krause.
I look at it as a city issue. I mean, our state representative from 54 Oshkosh, Gordon Hintz, the minority leader, he supports full legalization. District 57, Amanda Stuck, who's from Appleton, she supports full legalization. And that's our Fox River Valley. It's a very progressive, liberal point of view. You compare it to an OWI, carrying a small amount of marijuana in your pocket is not comparable to an OWI. An OWI can kill somebody in a car accident. It's just not even close to being comparable. Alcohol is a full recreational narcotic, if you want to call it. There's varying degrees of opinions with medical marijuana use. The reason why a lot of people use marijuana is for medical purposes, and unfortunately Wisconsin doesn't have medical marijuana as an option. The biggest lobbyist in the country against medical marijuana is the pharmaceutical companies, because they're fearing that they're going to lose out on their profits. Another reason why to reduce the fine would be less police resources used for smaller offenses. I'm all for it being illegal. I mean, that's the state law right now, so we got to live with it. In the future, it might change, just like other states. Mr. Peck proposed, did you say $200 or $250?
It's $200, and this is not an auction.
No, I'm not. I'm asking you, so I.
$200.
$200 with court
Plus
fees.
costs.
Plus court fees, that would be $389. An OWI is much less, and it's, again, my opinion, OWI is much more damaging to potential people. I'm proposing 7 grams or less, a $50 fine, and the court costs for Oshkosh would be $150, which would be a $200 fine total out of pocket. Over 7 grams, up to 28 grams, $150 fine, plus a $176 court fee, which would be $326. This would be simple possession, 18 and over. So it'd be non-impaired driving that would follow the state ordinance. This is just simple possession, have it in your possession. So that's my proposal. I think it's totally in line. People said OWI is $75 plus court fees, so it is in line with that. And I'm fine with the smaller amounts for a lower fine, because that shows very small handling of it, and over 7 up to 28 grams. 28 grams is a lot of marijuana. It can't be consumed in a short amount of time, so the fine should be more. So that's my proposal. Thank you.
Councilmember Palmieri.
So, the first thing I would like to say is, I know we're giving direction to staff on what to do next. And so it's my understanding what procedurally we need to do next is to place this for a formal resolution on a future agenda item.
Would be an ordinance.
I'm sorry, excuse me, an ordinance modification for a future agenda item. And that first meeting being in January. January 9th. I would agree with Councilmember Krause that we do need to take into account the court costs as well. But I want to make something clear that I don't think has really been talked about a lot, and it was mentioned by staff, but you know, we do have this non-criminal option currently. So the discussion of decriminalizing, well, since there already is a non-criminal option already, I just want to remind folks that that is already an option, and it is up to law enforcement, you know, which of those that they will utilize in specific cases. I do not feel that it would be appropriate for us to reduce that fine for minors under the age of 18. So I would support the amount that Mr. Krause referenced, because I do think we need to, you know, factor in the fact that we don't have a municipal court, and so there are those higher costs beyond what our ordinance looks at for a fee.
Councilmember Pansky.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I just want to thank Councilmember Krause for the incredible amount of work that he put into this and looking into all of this information. If you do searches on this information, it's overwhelming, it's confusing, everything's different. We've all had a lot of questions regarding this. Councilmember Palmieri raised some wonderful concerns in an email that went out while I was gone, so I just want to thank her as well. The whole reason why we are discussing this again tonight is because a group of our residents came together to ask us to change this. Just because we address this doesn't mean that you have to smoke marijuana. We were asked to do something. These people vote us into office every 2 years, and we need to listen to them. Councilmember Peck, another thing you brought up was the financial struggle of this. You gave underage drinking as an option. Most people under the age of drinking age probably live at home, probably don't have a lot of bills to worry about. There are some people who are living on their own, who have car payments, mortgages, bills, that this is a hindrance to. It's a valid concern. It may not be your valid concern, but it is a concern that we can address. We failed, again, to put this in the hands of the voters via referendum, so I do fully support the efforts of Councilmember Krause to take this into our own hands, and I will support his recommendations in changing the ordinance as well. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Herman.
Thank you, Mayor. I just, for those that might not know, last year, council had a goal for the city manager was to look at a municipal court, and the cost of having our own municipal court was not cost efficient. So we stayed with Winnebago County as our municipal court, if you want to say that. So we are tied to their court fees. And court fees have a lot of, you know, the fine is very minimal. It's everything that gets added to a fine. And some of that goes to pay for the county jail. Some of it pays the circuit courts. Some goes to the district attorney's office. Some goes to the crime lab. Some of it goes to law enforcement training. Some of it goes for research. So the fees are set by the state of Wisconsin, not by the city of Oshkosh. The municipal fine is ours, but all the charges, we have no control over. So I just wanted to let people know, we have researched it. Mr. Roloff and Ms. Lawrenson did an extensive study on it last year, and during our budget discussion, we felt it was not cost effective to the citizens of Oshkosh to go to our own municipal court. We are the only municipality in Winnebago County that does not have a municipal court. But I think that, you know, those of you in the chamber tonight earlier heard our chief talk about the accreditation process. We follow the rules, the regulations. Our officers are trained extensively in doing their job, and I don't have a comment on the fine. I mean, after 30 years of law enforcement, I did what I had to do by my job and enforce the laws that were on the books. So I'm not going to make a comment on the fines at this point. Thank you.
Councilman Krause.
I had a question for Ms. Lawrenson. So if we would reduce the fine, the city gets the fine amount, and the county, the court fee would go to the county. does that hurt us as a city at all? How much we're giving to the court fee? I mean, are we getting any of that money ourselves, or does it even affect us if we lower the fine?
I don't think I understand your question.
So, I mean, if the county is getting, say, $200 for a court fee compared to $100, does that affect us as a city at all? Because I look at it as the fine is the punishment. The court fee has nothing to do with the crime.
We get the
actual
basic
fine.
fine amount minus, I think it's $5
Mm-hmm.
that is a fee for the court. And then they get whatever costs are associated, and actually, it goes to the county, the state, it goes to a number of different funds, as Councilmember Herman noted.
Thank you.
Councilman Peck.
To answer Mr. Krause's question, I did talk with Chief Smith about the financial impact. As I believe the chief at our last meeting mentioned that there were 127 citations addressed. So obviously, if you reduce the fine, there is some financial impact to the city. Obviously, if you go from $325 down to what you're suggesting, the financial impact would be the difference between $325 and what you're proposing times the number of citations. Would that be correct, Chief Smith? Obviously, it's, you know, if you change the charge from 300 down to 50, you're losing $250 in essence of less revenue.
That would be correct.
Times whatever number of citations are issued.
Yes.
So is your question are you saying if we reduce the fine, is it going to cause a significant budgetary constraint? You could make the argument that it would have a very minimal effect on the budget, but it will affect the budget. So, I hope that answers the gentleman's question.
Councilmember Pansky.
To your point, Mr. Peck, then that frees up our wonderful police department to go after more severe crimes that are more detrimental to society, which could lead to bigger fines and bigger seizures and a better living standard for us all.
Councilman Krause.
I just had a question on your data that you got these fines from people. What's the typical scenario? Is it like a traffic stop? Is it under impairment? Or is it, profiled a certain individual? Like, how are these people caught overall usually?
There are many different scenarios that play out. Typically, for an ordinance citation, if an officer stops somebody and they have a small amount of marijuana, chances are really good that the officer will write them an ordinance ticket. If we deal with somebody who has, we do a search warrant on a house because we have a drug investigation that's going on, and we find that they're possessing marijuana, they're going to get charged criminally. It all really depends on the circumstances of the encounter.
One of the reasons why Milwaukee and Madison reduced their fines is because it was a lot of racial profiling going into poor neighborhoods and busting people for other things and then finding marijuana too, where if you're a more affluent person, you're probably doing marijuana too, but you're not being put in that position in that kind of a neighborhood. That's why they got rid of the higher fines, because it was profiling. I'm not saying that we're doing that, I'm just saying that's what a lot of cities have problems with. Yeah.
We do not do that.
Councilman Peck.
Thank you. Chief Smith, do you find the enforcement of this ordinance impacting your new narcotics and vice unit, that you're not able to fulfill the tasks that you need to do?
Regardless of what the fine is, we're going to continue to operate the same way we've been operating. If we find somebody is in possession of a small amount, we're going to write them an ordinance ticket. The fine amount for us doesn't impact how we enforce the laws or the ordinances. We're going to enforce them the same way we have been enforcing them.
Okay. And at the last meeting, you mentioned that that the university police do not fall under Oshkosh's ordinances. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Can you add some color to that, what that would mean, that if someone has an encounter with the Oshkosh Police Department with marijuana, and then they have the same amount of marijuana and encounter the UWO police, is there a difference in what could be the potential outcome?
Yes. Oshkosh police officers have an option of charging somebody with an ordinance violation or charging them criminally. UWO police don't have that option. They can only charge criminally.
And-
We have the option to do that.
And would a criminal charge be a larger penalty, most likely, than an ordinance violation?
It really depends
Okay.
on the circumstance itself. Criminal charge, it carries a larger stigmatism within the community. It's a criminal charge on you.
And-
It could be a misdemeanor conviction upon you. A second misdemeanor conviction, or a second conviction of possession of marijuana becomes a felony.
Okay. So, depending on where the encounter is, whichever department you would have the run-in with, your circumstance could be significantly different.
That's correct.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Herman.
I'll just add one to Chief Smith's comments, because you see him throughout the city too. State Patrol can also make a traffic stop or be a backup on an encounter, and they too are bound by state statute. They cannot do an ordinance either. So I'm just letting people know there are other scenarios out there too that of law enforcement personnel, probation, parole could get involved if they're doing a search and they get involved in someone that's on probation and they're found in possession, they have to do a state charge. So I'm just throwing some things out there. I'm not pro, con, anything at this point. I'm just saying that there are a lot of factors that are out there that can make things change drastically. So.
City Manager Roloff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Based on the discussion, what I would like to suggest to council is that we could prepare two separate ordinances. Councilmember Krause's made one suggestion, Mr. Peck's made another. We can do both of those, and council has 4 weeks with which to ponder this themselves and make some decisions. And that doesn't bind you to either of those options, but those are the ones getting kicked around tonight. Between then, you could come up with any other number of options, but the whole idea for us was to give us some focus so that you have an idea of what you're looking at for the meeting on the 9th. Because clearly there were council members that have given us some input on it. This gives us a little more focus.
Just a couple of comments. We have a lot of ordinances, a lot of fines for different things. Does this mean every time we get a petition that we have to change an ordinance or the fine because people aren't happy with it? I made the statement last time, and I'll say it again. If you don't like the fine, don't use and don't get caught. It's a pretty simple concept. We have heard over and over at different meetings and sessions that it's difficult to get, we're short of employees in the state. And the comment we hear from a lot of potential employers, the person doesn't pass a drug test. So the state is being stifled because people aren't able to pass a drug test. To me, this is a state issue. If people want to change, go to Madison. Right now, we have ordinances in place. I do not support wasting city staff time to draft option A or option B. We have a lot on our plate, so I will not support this period. Deputy Mayor Herman.
Could I also make a request on that, Mr. Roloff, because, or Ms. Lawrenson, actually, you're the one that's probably gonna have to do it. Would you put all the court costs, everything associated, kind of maybe on a side sheet of some sort, so that, I understand it because of my law enforcement background, but Mr. Krause sent something out this week, and I don't think a lot of council members maybe understood what, court costs, and then you got jail assessment, and you got all the different levels of what, and then the fine ends up being $350, but the fine was only $50. So
I didn't see what was sent out.
yeah, well, anyways, so maybe you could just add what are all the costs associated to that ordinance, so that if it, let's just say it's $50 and all of a sudden the fine's $350, why is it $350 when we just said it was $50?
Yep,
So they
I can
don't
do that.
understand all the different things that are attached to that.
So like a schedule that says $50
Well, like the
fine
bond
means
book.
this much, $75.
Just for example, like the bond book
Yep.
that all officers are given, and it has, the fees in there, it would maybe help council to get a better understanding, a little bit of what a basic fine is / here's the total cost.
Yep, I can do that.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Councilmember Palmieri.
Just an additional request on that too. Maybe refresh my memory on, so if there is an ordinance violation, a citation's written, and that individual agrees or pleads guilty or no contest, they still have those full extra court costs? I don't know if
Yes.
that's, okay, all right.
Councilmember Krause.
I just go back to the point where the actual fine is the punishment. It's not the citizen's fault that we have high court costs. I mean, other cities have lower fines, and their fines are even lower because of the lower court costs. So I don't see why a citizen should be punished because of high court costs. That has nothing to do with the fine. It's just a paper formality. So that's why I'm supporting a lower fine to reduce the court costs.
Well, in response to that, I mean,
Court costs don't go down, but the fine, you can balance it out. I'm just trying to balance out the court costs.
why are we trying to balance out court costs? They broke the law.
But do we want to be on the right side of history or the wrong side of history? There's been a lot of laws in the past that have been way backwards, and we can look at this the same way. And 50 years from now, they're going to look at it like, why did Wisconsin wait to the very end? It can be the same viewpoint of concealed carry. I mean, I don't care how you think, but Wisconsin was the second to last state to enforce concealed carry. And it's not a backwards thought. And with the Wisconsin, legislation branch, with the current gerrymandering case, in 2011, it switched to Republicans. Every single time, pretty much Democrats have controlled the vote or been popular enough to keep the House, and it's because of corruption. That's why the state hasn't passed marijuana new laws already. So, just trying to level the playing
Councilman,
field.
Don't use. I can't get more clear than don't use and don't get caught. Councilman Peck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hopefully this will be the last comment. I had a good discussion with Mr. Kelderman, correct? Kelderman, all right, just want to make sure. Just, it's a joke we'll have for a long period of time. I found out that we have something in common. We both officiate youth sports. Everybody knows I'm a hockey official. Now, USA Hockey publishes a rule book every 4 years. We, as officials, have to enforce that rule book. If I don't agree with a rule, it doesn't mean I can arbitrarily change it or whatever. I have to wait until I have to petition the rulemaking body to change the rules. That's what I think, that's what the key point here is. Mr. Krause, you're right. We're a little behind. But it's not our job, the 7 of us here, to make that change. It's in Madison that that change has to be made. Now, we can change our ordinance, and I've suggested that we change our ordinance. So, go and petition and Mr. Kelderman says, you guys are working on it, but that is where, Madison is where this battle is. Not here. Related to the legalization. It's already decriminalized in this city. We've already taken that step. I'm willing to come down on the fine, but I'm not willing to back out the court costs, because anyone else that goes to court, a speeding ticket, a domestic abuse situation, they have to pay the court costs. That's part of the system. So, I wish you luck down in Madison. I know that 7 of us have tried to get Madison to do stuff, and it isn't the easiest thing. But you gotta, the rule book needs to be changed, not how the rule is applied.
Mr. Roloff, do you?
I just
Mr.
wanted to
President?
add that we can have our own rule book here in Oshkosh too. That's Wisconsin law, that we can change that.
We already have our own rule book.
It's not fair to what other cities that are.
We're not other
now.
cities.
Yeah. I would hope we
Mr.
someday
Roloff,
would
do
be
you
like
have
Madison.
enough direction?
Yes, thank you very much.
37A, Development Standards and Zoning for Gateway Areas. Deputy Mayor Herman.
Thank you, Mayor. I just thought I'd bring this up to council discussion since we tonight talked about Oshkosh Avenue and looking at some of the zoning changes and things and upping what we'd like to see in that area. And I think we already have some areas in Oshkosh, and I don't know if we want to call them gateways. I know a year or so ago, or 2 years ago, we did a gateway study, and we identified South Park and 9th Avenue and Oshkosh Ave and Jackson Street as gateways into the city, and maybe we kind of use that. But I'm thinking, we had this lengthy discussion a couple council meetings ago about the Sawdust District and what we want to see in the Sawdust District. We talked about it being an entertainment district and things like that. So I guess my discussion is, or my thinking is, we should start to identify the Sawdust District. Maybe we want to look at a zoning change there. Maybe there's other areas of the riverfront that we might think need to be more of a zoning change. You know, 10 years ago, we needed anything and everything that was being built in Oshkosh, but as earlier tonight from Go EDC, we saw some of the big changes that have been happening in Oshkosh and what our companies are starting to do. And I think maybe we start to look at raising the bar throughout the city, because we don't just need another retail store. We don't need another chain restaurant. We don't need another, we want more upscale. It's kind of what the Convention Visitors Bureau is discussing. We have a lot of events in Oshkosh. Now we want to make sure we bring events in that bring room nights and bring people into the city and enjoy the city. So I'm thinking that before we get too far out there with a lot of ideas and planning, that maybe we need to take a look at certain areas of the city and start designating them as gateway areas and make maybe a determination on the zoning and what we would like to see in design standards in those areas, so that when Go EDC, when the Chamber of Commerce goes out and talks to developers and potential businesses coming in, they can tell them already, here's what the city has in this area. If you look at Green Bay, you look at the Green Bay area in general, they have those design standards already. And you can see some of their developments and how they're improving them. Ashwaubenham's got them, look at the Stadium District and things like that. So I think we're at that point now that we should be making sure that we have those standards in place.
I fully support what Mr. Deputy Mayor Herman is saying. That's been the discussion for as long as I've been on the Plan Commission, that we've got to raise standards. And I think now is the ideal time, again, to start doing it, and the gateways are the most logical place, especially Oshkosh Avenue. That is our first chance, I think, probably sort of forever, to really have design standards for a gateway into the city. It's like a clean slate for us. And I think, we've heard discussions about Jackson Drive as a kind of a hodgepodge of stuff coming in. 9th Avenue is, it is not the greatest entry. South Park is kind of a so-so thing. So I think this is a great opportunity. I think the developers are hearing what we're saying, and I think they're willing to, it gives them more value for their project when it has architectural integrity. So I think that's the direction the Plan Commission is moving. I think it sounds like most of the council wants to go that direction too. So with that, Councilmember Palmieri.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with that, but I also feel that, we'll probably be having future discussions on, things that address, master planning or some kind of cohesive theme in some of these areas. And before we, start getting this patchwork, it may be the case that not only do we need to elevate those design standards, but we also need to incorporate in there, some specific plans because otherwise we do end up with some of this kind of, I mean, I don't mind eclectic. I have a eclectic taste myself, but just to kind of give a little guidance for what the expectation is. Not just the higher standard, but some form of thematic standard in certain areas.
Yeah. Okay, Pam, does anyone sign up for the next go at citizen statements?
I have no one signed up for the second citizen statements.
And we'll move to council member announcements and statements. Boards and commission opening, again, that's me because I assign people to the 27 boards and the commission and ask for the council approval. Again, if anyone is interested in serving their community, a great place to start is one or more of our boards and commissions. Everything from the Plan Commission, Landmarks, Long Range Finance, Parks Board, Bike and Pet. There's another 15. Most meet once a month for about 2 hours. So I encourage anyone that's interested in giving to their community to go to the city's website. You can fill out the application there for serving one of our boards and commissions. And with that, Chief Smith and I went to De Pere the other day to the Lights of Christmas program, and I will turn it over to you, Chief, because
Well,
you
thank
came back with all the good stuff.
Yes. To give you a little rundown of what the Lights of Christmas program is, radio station Q90, they approached us and asked us to participate in a program that was really developed last year, where they wanted to develop a campaign to benefit low-income and homeless people in our community, and also to continue to foster positive relationships between law enforcement and our community members. Not only did they have an idea, but they also put some meat to the idea, and they got some sponsors. And I'm happy to report that they provided to us $5,000 worth of gift cards, as well as what they call blessing bags that are full of warm clothing, full of food, they're full of hand warmers, they're everything that our homeless population can use out on the streets, especially tonight. And we're able to, for those families that are underprivileged, that are not as fortunate as others, we're able to actually go and provide them with gift cards. We have officers working right now, they have a stack full of gift cards. They're able to do traffic stops. And if they see somebody that's truly in need, maybe we'll give them a warning ticket and a gift card, just to say thank you and have a good holiday. This afternoon, prior to council meeting, myself and my command staff, we were actually at the day-by-day warming shelter. We handed out probably 30 of the blessing bags, as well as probably $700 worth of gift cards to the homeless that went to the shelter. It's just something special that we're able to give back to the community. We're very happy to be a part of this. We actually went to De Pere, the mayor and I, we stuffed some of the blessing bags, played some games with some kids, got tied up a little bit, and we had a really good evening.
Okay.
So that's it. So if you have anybody in need, please let me know. We've gotten a lot of feedback from city staff as well as some of our community partners, but we're reaching out to those families just need a little extra pickup this holiday season.
I think one of the nicest things was you're able to give gift cards to kids so they can actually get a gift to give to their parents or siblings. I thought that was one of the nicest touches.
Yes, absolutely.
Councilperson Pansky.
Chief, will your department be accepting donations of gift cards and any items in order to continue this program here in our community?
We absolutely will. We want to make sure that we can do whatever we can to help others. We're not just police officers, we're community liaisons for the whole community. So any donations we receive, we're happy to give those back.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
And then just like the announcement, as far as the fire department toy and food drive, there are 2 more nights to go to, is that correct? Jake, do you have the visual to put on? Oh, there it is. I went last week and we did the east side, my neighborhood, and the truck that was with us, the Salvation Army, was almost full by the time we got back to the fire station. It was just incredible, the outpouring of toys and food and money from the citizens of Oshkosh was just incredible. So
there is just one more night.
One more night.
Tonight was the second of the last night, so they're just finishing them. So Thursday will be the last night. I believe that one is in the northeast part of the city, fire station 18's area. but people can drop things off at any of these stations through Friday if we missed them or if we didn't cover their area.
Okay, great, thank you. Now we'll turn this over to City Manager Roloff, who has some announcements and statements.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are a variety of memos in your agenda packet. At this time of year, after the council adopts the budget, we begin work on capital improvement projects as well as some other implementation items. The first one on the agenda is number 41, Tyler Technologies, or CLT. They're the group that assists us with our commercial assessments. You recall that during the budget process, Luke Alger, our deputy assessor, will be our full assessor, but we're still contracting with Tyler to take care of our commercial assessments. In terms of capital improvements and stormwater, Brown & Caldwell's been our stormwater consultant for a number of years. We're going to be continuing with them for general stormwater services as well as anything they do for us relative to site plan review. They assist our Public Works Department with those things. Their hydrologist, Jim Bachhuber, is the one who provides that service for us. The next one is with Donahue and Associates. Just in case we need any structural engineering, design, and construction services, they'll provide us with that assistance. Those things come up periodically over the course of the year. To the degree we need them, we have them available, and we have a predetermined schedule that we follow, and we pay them for that. Similarly, AECom for our stormwater management assistance with any modeling that may need to get done over the course of the year. They're local firms, so we can call them on a moment's notice and get them to come in and do these things for us. Those are the contracts. If you have any questions, those were all under the threshold that don't require council approval, but I'm required to report them, so I'm happy to do that. Are there any questions regarding any of these contracts? If not, I'm happy to report with number 46 that I think it's time that we take this off the agenda. I think we're okay, and unless Ms. Allison Osby has something to tell me that I need to leave it on, I don't think we do. So this will be the last time we have the arena update. If you want to know, buy a ticket. Similarly, we've put on the agenda for discussion for the foreseeable future an update on Oshkosh Corporation. We developed a slightly different format for council to take a look at, but it is under item number 47, and it's a little chart that Mr. Davis and his staff put together. It's really just different timelines and different decisions that will be forthcoming with various bodies of the city, specifically the council, Plan Commission, the Joint Review Board, as well as Oshkosh Corporation. The next thing coming up, and this has to do with the discussion that happened earlier this evening, there is a discussion about creating a new zone. Alan, can you refresh my memory on the title of it? Corporate Business Park?
Corporate Business Park. We do not have a Corporate Business Park zone that exists right now. The Plan Commission has been meeting to go over those things. They're going to be doing their final meeting on that, presumably, to make a recommendation to the council. That'll be next Tuesday on the 19th, and then that'll be brought forward to council at your meeting on January 9th. I'd encourage you to take a look at the workshop, or no, that wasn't, we didn't tape that one, but I encourage you to take a look at the Plan Commission meeting on the 19th to get you a little flavor of what that'll involve. Similarly, we have a closed session planned for January 9th. Council will recall that when we updated our TIF policy, that council requested that they get a look at the development agreement prior to it going out. So we'll have a closed session for you to review the development agreement. Ms. Lawrenson and our contract counsel on this, they're working on those things, and the idea will be to discuss that with you, get some direction from you as we conduct our negotiations. You can see the rest of the things that are on that schedule. A lot of things are going to be happening on January 9th. Again, I mentioned the new zoning code. Mr. Herman brought up earlier, maybe we need to take a look at some other areas. That zoning that we're talking about may or may not be applicable to some of these other areas, but that's the idea, I believe, of what Mr. Herman was talking about. Do we want to create some new zones that are a little higher level than what our standard zones are? And that's certainly going to be up to council, but this will be the first one, and it'll give you an idea of the difference, and you'll see the difference when
when the Plan Commission forwards that to council. Rezoning the Oshkosh Avenue lots, once they get the new zone in place, then those zones will come into play, as well as the area in question for Oshkosh Corporation. And I think Mr. Davis has talked about earlier, we're doing the, working on the certified survey map to get all that really nailed down. We're having discussions with Oshkosh Corp about different things relative to infrastructure. We'll keep you posted on that. That may or may not impact the development agreement, so when we meet with you on the 9th in closed session, we'll be going through some of those things and getting some direction from you. I don't know if you have any questions about the schedule. There's plenty of time. We're looking forward at least 3 to 4 months because we want to keep you apprised of what things are on the horizon, because things will be coming up and we want you to know about those things. And as new things come up, we'll add that to the schedule, and you'll see this regularly for maybe for about the next 2 years. Any questions?
Councilmember Palmieri.
Yes, Mr. Olaf. So when do we anticipate, okay, I'm looking at this schedule up through looks like mid-March. At what point should we be expecting to begin the discussions about the remaining acreage and public involvement and process for that? A lot of people, inquiring minds, want to know, including myself, and we've had a few questions about that.
This is just about the Oshkosh Corp project. We can certainly do that a separate schedule if you'd like, but Mr. Mauer plans to begin that discussion with the Parks Board after the first of the year. It really starts with the Parks Board, get some input. They're going to decide how they want to do it. And I think Mr. Herman, as the deputy mayor, is our liaison to the Parks Board. I'm sure he's going to be providing you with some input as well.
Deputy Mayor Herman.
I guess off of that comment, I really think we shouldn't do hardly anything until we really know what Oshkosh Corp is building and how much, because I know Mr. Mauer talked about some stormwater issues. We may have to expand, so we may lose some more parkland. So I think until we really see what's left, because we don't know, we might have to take a little more for the roads, we might have to take a little more for the sidewalks, we might have, who knows? So I think it's premature until we really say, you know what, Oshkosh Corp is done, they opened in 19, and we have 50 acres left, or we have 60 acres left. Because otherwise, everything else, it's gonna be like locked in place, and maybe we can't do it. So I think we're gonna have the Riverwalk, that's gonna be done, because that's part of the agreement, so there'll be access to that part of the golf course. And so until really, I think, we see what is available land, I don't think we can do a lot. I think to me, it's premature. That's just my thinking.
Yeah. And based on that comment, if you look at the schedule, if you follow that logic, the council will take action on the CSM. It's currently scheduled for February 27th. So to give you a rough idea about, the time frame of those things, it'll go to the Plan Commission on the 20th. The idea would be the CSM, Alan, it will be, if those questions that Mr. Herman raised, they have to be answered before we can do that CSM, and that's going to be coming up. There's a two-step process with the certified survey map. One is to create the lot by the end of the year for Oshkosh Corp. The second CSM that you're referring to there for February will identify the right-of-ways and easements that we're going to need, and that has a lot to do with the traffic impact analysis and the sewer plans, the storm sewer plans, where those easements need to go. So that probably is, we're not going to know those answers until February.
Yeah.
So you'll see that we'll be putting those things on, and
Okay.
so appreciate it. Keep the feedback coming. You're going to see this for 2 years, so you may as well get used to it. Thank you very much. That's the Oshkosh Corp update. I think the mayor and I can fill you in a little bit on what consisted of Dark Store Day.
Right.
The mayor provided some comments to the media. I didn't catch anything on any of the media, if they picked them up or if they were given more attention to the Green Bay communities.
Well, the Green Bay stations were there, but after the press conference, then they interviewed some of the Green Bay, the Ashwaubenon and the surrounding communities about the Dark Store. But there was one held in the Pier, or Ashwaubenon, and one in Milwaukee yesterday. So there were people there from the league at both locations, and what was nice, all the different speakers, while we didn't coordinate it, we all had a bit of a different take on this whole situation. And my part, I referenced the number of calls our police department makes to the active stores. We had just like a Fleet Farm and a Walmart, I think it's one per day, so that's about between two stores over 700 calls a year. If you take in the outlet mall, Menards and so forth, we're probably making 2,000 police calls a year to these locations. And unlike a dark store, maybe it's one or two a year. But so they're asking us to provide all these services, the dark stores, but yet they don't want to pay for these services. But it was, everyone had a different message, but it was all the same thing, that it's really taking tax dollars, it's shifting tax dollars to the homeowners and a small business owner type of thing. It's just, what the box stores are doing, they're asking their customers to pay their taxes.
The issue yesterday was to encourage our legislators, the legislative leadership, to schedule this for a vote, because there's clearly enough sponsors, there's clearly enough people. The legislature has basically an understanding that they will not schedule something unless the majority party has enough votes within their own caucus to make it pass without support from the other house. The reality is that they already have a majority. It's such a bipartisan support for this thing. They have, they're probably upwards in the Senate, probably upwards of the upper 20s out of 33 people. So even though there may be a few naysayers on both sides of the aisle, they're very few and far between. So the whole purpose of it was make people aware that this is something that has widespread support and needs to get scheduled. The hearings are done. The public hearings are done. We're not going down to Madison for this one. We don't need to anymore. They just have to schedule it for a floor vote. So that was really the purpose of us getting out there, is to get the legislators aware that a lot of people care about it.
Unfortunately, the checkbooks speak louder.
So there's that one. And then the hearing on landlord-tenant legislation is actually tomorrow, not Thursday, so the mayor and I will be going down. There's actually two pieces of legislation that the league's asked us to comment on. When the mayor and I were in Madison, I believe it was September, to talk about the landlord-tenant legislation, we also were made aware of some legislation that might be forthcoming regarding subdivision regulations and things of that nature, and they wanted to make us aware of it. That legislation is proposing to undermine a lot of the protections that you've asked us for in terms of subdivisions, making sure that developers put up the right guarantees and things like that. That one is also scheduled for a hearing before the exact same committee tomorrow. So the mayor and I will be going. We're going to tag team it. He'll cover the landlord-tenant one. I'll cover the subdivision one. And we've been working on our scripts for tomorrow, but they're pretty much following what council direction has been over the years about these things. I'm concerned when you think about what happened over on the northern part of town, that subdivision that council members were asked about for years. Why aren't we getting that done? North Shores, thank you, Alan. That one was caused because we didn't have enough protections in place, and they're trying to reverse those protections that the council has asked for and communities throughout the state have asked for. And if they reverse those things, that could, it might make it a little easier for developers, but it's certainly gonna put us in an awkward spot. And I don't wanna be telling people, let's blame the state, when they're saying, why aren't these protections in place? So we're gonna be going down there, and we'll report to you through the newsletter, since we're gonna have a full 4 weeks between meetings. We'll get you something in the newsletter to fill you in on how that goes.
Who's lobbying for the removal of these protections?
My theory is that because it's the end of the legislative session, that these were done by specific lobbying groups, the apartment association with the landlord-tenant, and housing developers and things like that on the development side. They're so patently, I mean, it is undoing everything, and it just, they just seem so outrageous that they just more smell of somebody just bringing it forward from a lobbying group.
Because the budget cycle is done, so now fundraising can begin again.
Well, to follow up what City Manager Roloff said about our meeting in September with Representative Brooks, Darren also went with us. We invited the Chancellor, and he went with us to speak about the conditions that his students live in off-campus housing. We had people there from La Crosse, Eau Claire, Beloit, Milwaukee, and Turtle Lake, and kind of the common thread. Turtle Lake is this tiny little town northwest, and Milwaukee obviously is the biggest city in the state. And it was the same theme, regardless of the size of the community. The same issues, the same problems. And going through the proposed legislation or change, there's a gazillion ambiguities in there. Stuff. Nothing makes sense. And I think that's the sense we got from other mayors we talked to the other day up in De Pere. Our city staff is saying the same thing. Nothing makes a lot of sense. So we'll find out more tomorrow.
So that's at that, and we'll have a report for you in the newsletter. And then just something tripped my memory. State of the City is scheduled for Monday, March 19th. So mark your calendars and plan ahead. Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I'll turn this over to Deputy Mayor Herman, who would like to make a motion.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that following the adjournment of this meeting, the council may convene in the closed session pursuant to section 19.85, parent 1, parent C of the Wisconsin State Statutes to discuss the performance evaluation compensation regarding the city manager, an employee over which the common council's jurisdiction and exercises responsibility.
Second.
Would you please take the roll?
Palmieri?
Aye.
Allison Osby?
Aye.
Herman?
Aye.
Pansky?
Aye.
Krause?
Aye.
Peck?
Aye.
Cummings?
Aye.
Carried 7.
And we look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Adjourned.